Once upon a time, in a land far away, there was a continent that had no name. Its people referred to it by different names, depending on their tribe, language, and culture. Some called it Alkebulan, which means land of the blacks, while others called it Ife, which means the world. There were also those who called it Azania, which means land of the free, and those who called it Kush, which means land of the bow. Despite the different names, the people of the continent had a shared history, culture, and identity. They had built great civilizations, such as the ancient kingdoms of Egypt, Nubia, and Ethiopia, and had developed complex systems of trade, governance, and religion. They had also suffered through the horrors of slavery, colonization, and exploitation by foreign powers. Before moving ahead, let's see if you can answer this question. What is the largest country in Africa by land area? A. Egypt, B. Algeria, C. Sudan, or D. Libya? Comment your answers in the comment section below. Now let's move ahead. As the world began to globalize, and trade and commerce expanded, the people of the continent realized that they needed a common name to represent their shared identity, and to assert their place in the world. They wanted a name that would honor their history, culture, and diversity, and that would inspire their aspirations for freedom, unity, and prosperity. Many names were proposed, but none gained widespread acceptance. Some suggested naming the continent after the great empires and kingdoms of its past, such as Egypt, Ethiopia, or Carthage. Others proposed naming it after its geography, such as the Sahara, the Nile, or the Congo. Some even suggested naming it after its wildlife, such as the lion or the elephant. But none of these names captured the essence of the continent's identity, nor did they reflect the aspirations of its people. The search for a name became a symbol of the continent's struggle for self-determination and recognition, as well as a source of inspiration for its artists, poets, and intellectuals. One day, a young poet named Amina sat down to write a poem about her homeland. She had grown up in a small village in West Africa, but had traveled the continent extensively, learning about its history, culture, and people. As she sat down to write, she closed her eyes and let her imagination wander. She saw the vast savannas, the majestic mountains, and the winding rivers that crisscrossed the continent. She heard the music of its people, the laughter of its children, and the whispers of its elders. She felt the warmth of the sun on her skin, the coolness of the breeze on her face, and the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. As she opened her eyes, she realized that she had found the name that the continent had been searching for. She called it Africa, a name that she had invented by combining the first syllable of the word Afri with the last syllable of the word Ife. She wrote a poem about her homeland and recited it to her friends and family. They were moved by her words, and soon, her poem became a rallying cry for the continent. Word of Amina's poem soon spread, and it was read and recited in villages, towns, and cities across the continent. It spoke to the hearts and minds of the people, and soon, Africa became the name that the continent was known by. It was a name that honored the past, celebrated the present, and inspired the future. It was a name that represented the diversity, unity, and resilience of its people. As time passed, Africa became a symbol of hope, pride, and resistance for the continent. It inspired generations of leaders, activists, and artists to fight for their rights, dignity, and freedom. It became a source of inspiration for the world, as people looked to the continent for its wisdom, innovation, and creativity. However, the adoption of the name Africa was not without controversy. Some argued that it was too simplistic and did not capture the complexities and diversity of the continent. Others argued that it was too Eurocentric, as it had been invented by a poet who had been influenced by European languages and culture. Despite these criticisms, the name Africa continued to gain popularity and acceptance. It was used by African leaders and intellectuals in their speeches and writings, and it was included in the names of political and cultural organizations, such as the Organization of African Unity and the Pan-African Congress. As the 20th century ended, the name Africa had become the most widely recognized and accepted name for the continent, It had become a symbol of the continent's resilience, creativity, and diversity, as well as a source of inspiration for its people and for the world. Today, the name Africa continues to represent the continent's identity, culture, and aspirations. It reminds us of the struggles and triumphs of its people, the richness and beauty of its landscapes and wildlife, and the power and potential of its future.